Welcome everyone to Happy Lifestyle Online. I'm Lisa Caprelli. We're talking with therapist Alexis Maron. Welcome, Alexis.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi. So we put this on my other public pages, and thank you for listening and tuning in. So we are talking about the 5 love languages, Alexis, and tell us how this has helped many couples, including myself.
Yeah. So for the 5 love languages, for those of you that don't know, long story short is basically we go into every relationship, platonic and romantic relationships, with a breadth of knowledge about how we want to be loved and how we also give love to other people. So one of the things that I see inside of my counseling sessions with couples is a lot of time each partner knows how they like to be loved, but the other partner is having a hard time being able to deliver that because maybe naturally they speak a different love language. So the best way to think about it is if I come in with my partner, it's like I speak English and he speaks French and we're trying to communicate, but we can't translate and we don't understand. So there are 5 different love languages, as Lisa said, and one of them is words of affirmation. So that means something like the partner needs to hear, "You're beautiful, I'm proud of you, you're doing a good job, you're an amazing partner, friend," things like that. There's physical touch, which obviously, as you could probably tell, means I need some touch. If I'm having a bad day, I need a hug, I need a handhold, I need cuddles, I need some type of affection. The next one is gifts, which can mean anything from I've written you a poem to here's a bracelet to here's some flowers. Some people need to have their birthdays recognized with something in a box, right? So that's another love language. There's also acts of service, which is something like maybe you know that your partner does not like to wake up early and make coffee. So you will go downstairs and you'll make coffee and you will bring coffee to your partner every day. Or maybe that person does not like to vacuum. So that person is going to vacuum for you. Wonderful. Obviously, you can tell I like that one. That's a big one for me. And then lastly, there is quality time. Quality time is I need to spend quality time with my partner. And this one can be tricky because everybody has a different understanding of what quality time means to them. So maybe if I say, Lisa is my best friend and we want to go out one night and I really want to spend some time with her, maybe to me, quality time is she needs to sit on the couch with me and watch a movie, right? And then we get to gossip afterwards. Maybe to Lisa, quality time is going out and going dancing. And so even though we think we're doing the same thing, we have to make sure that we're specific about what we need to feel fulfilled in that way.
And there's an online quiz and test that anyone can take.
Yes, there is, which I highly recommend, even if you're not inside of a relationship or you don't feel like you're going to be it anytime soon. That's okay. It's really just good to know how you want to be loved, because you can also say this, like I said, to your platonic relationships, to your friends, to your family. Hey, mom and dad, I don't need gifts. I just need you to come and hang out with me. That's important.
It's so true. And my number one love language is time. And so is for my partner, Chris. We discovered early on, I actually had him do the love language quiz. Yeah. And so I actually had my children do it, and my younger son, and it really helped for him to see my point of view on what I like the most and his. So I like that. For now, he started texting me more when he was away with dad, because he knew that time that was giving me time. So that's very true, Alexis.
Good. That's great.
So, okay, so I'm going to come to you a little bit now on your personal journey. What's been one of your greatest accomplishments?
Oh, gosh. I think one of my greatest accomplishments was when I first found out about drama therapy. I was 24 and I was living in Los Angeles, and I was acting and kind of piecing my life together. And I found out about drama therapy, and I realized that there was only a couple of schools in the nation that offer a master's degree in drama therapy. One of them was in San Francisco, one in New York, and one in Canada. And so when I figured out that this is my calling, and I just loved this idea of drama therapy, combining my two loves, at 25, I moved to New York by myself, and I started a brand new life there, and I got accepted to NYU, and I did my grad school program, and I graduated with my master's degree. And I think that entire journey has been my greatest accomplishment. And in actuality, it wasn't necessarily graduating with a master's degree. It was making the decision to leave the comfort of my very close circle, my little bubble in Orange County, and to
Yeah.
expand my life and move across the country. That has been my greatest accomplishment so far.
Wow, that's a big feat. So, describe to us your younger self. What were you like as a little girl?
I loved, and I'm going to say in present tense too, everything pink and sparkly and magical. And if it smelled like vanilla, I was drawn to it. But actually, as a very young girl, I was really quite introverted. I used to love to draw. I would draw hours on end. That was one of my favorite things, visual arts. My parents thought I would actually become a visual artist. But then at some point, I kind of broke out of my shell and got into theater. And that's what I ended up doing for a very long time, was performing in musicals. So I really found myself there. But I've always been very sensitive and compassionate. I've always been a good listener. I'm an only child, and so some people will say that I'm spoiled. I just say that I'm extra loved. So that's all. But I've always
Yeah.
been very peaceful and serene.
Yes. Thanks for sharing that. I didn't know some of that about you as well.
Yeah.
So, do you find that because you're an only child that you have more of a you obviously understand human behavior because you've studied it. Is that something that you wanted to do growing up? And since you've done that and you had your education, do you feel that it's opened up a lot more for you?
Yes, I've always had an interest in how people interact. I think that partially came from acting as a young kid too. I mean, acting is just watching other people react to what you're saying, and that's a lot of what human nature is.
Right.
But as a young child, I think part of my journey, I was drawn to being a helper of mankind. I went into therapy at a very young age to help with some things that were happening in my life. And I had such an amazing therapist that I cannot sing her praises loud enough. She really did change my life. And it was such a cathartic and reparative experience to be in that setting. I think it really sort of set the bar for understanding how much therapy can really help somebody when it's needed. And then doing that, and then also loving drama and then smashing them together, was just the perfect thing.
So you are a relationship drama therapist. So that drama background helped you. So explain to people what that is, because I don't know that many people know, and how does that help them?
Sure, yeah. So drama therapy itself, the definition of it is using dramatic principles for therapeutic purposes. So sometimes that looks like helping an individual understand the different roles that they're playing in their life. And if it's helping them, are they playing the victim, the martyr, the lover, the dreamer? Which ones help support their goals? Which ones are sort of taking them away from their goals, helping them find out who they are at their core self. And then with couple work, there's a technique, it's like role play, it's called psychodrama, where you basically have a couple reenact a conversation as they remember it, trying to use the tone that they used inside of the conversation, trying to use the language that helps with memory, it helps with understanding, wow, I just said this way, and maybe I can see now that that tone isn't appropriate for this. So it's almost like I get to watch it like a movie being played out before me. And there are so many different idiosyncrasies that I'm going to pick up on because it's body language and its tone and its facial expression that would be different than you just recounting, oh, I think I said this thing, and saying it to me in a monotone voice. So that kind of just brings it to life.
So people get to see how they show up that they may not have known, because I don't think people really want to be in a bad relationship. Nobody wants to
No.
be in that. They just don't know how to communicate. And sometimes they've gone years or excessive, when I come, sometimes when I hear, and I'm not a therapist, but through my own work in studying human behavior and having an interest with myself, having a background in social psychology, I just find that people just don't, they think that the world is the way they were raised or through their eyes. And I think that if people stop to realize that, well, how does he or she look at it? And why is it, because when you first meet, you're in a relationship, you're love, it's harmonious. Like you said, it's a honeymoon stage. And then what happens along the way that changes?
I think, like you said, nobody goes into a relationship thinking, oh, this is going to be toxic. Yay, I'm so excited. Nobody does that. Everybody goes into a relationship wanting to show up as their best self. And it's not the partner that gets in the way of being your best self. It's your own stuff. It's your own wounds. It's your own baggage that you're bringing to the table. And oftentimes we are drawn to other people that have a similar childhood or adult wound. And we think, oh, that person has that same thing. They've got abandonment issues too. Let's try to help each other through that. And that doesn't always work. Two people with the same type of wound will oftentimes try to just be in a cycle of helping each other the whole time. And not that that's bad, but it's good to have more of a balance where my partner can see where I have a void, I can see where my partner has a void, and we try to fill that for each other.
Yes. Thank you. So if someone came to you who is seeking a way out of a bad relationship, what would you say the world will be like for them? And can you give a story on someone who came to you and realized this is not the person for me, and what that process was like?
Sure. I suppose the first thing that I say to somebody who has come to the conclusion that they no longer want to be in their relationship is that it is not a quick process. I think people think, oh, I've made the decision, I'm going to sprint my way out of this relationship. And that doesn't necessarily work, especially for people that have been in long-term committed relationships for a couple of years. And even if it's a couple of months, there is an undoing process where you have to unmesh, you have to disentwine your roots basically and get untangled from each other. And what that means is basically taking time for yourself to cry when you need to cry, to be happy when you're happy, to allow space for grief. I think oftentimes people try to minimize what heartache and heartbreak actually feels like. And for those of us that have been through it, we understand that it is like experiencing a death. And you have to let go of the expectations that went along with that relationship and mourn those didn't come to fruition, and allow that time to sort of exit your body, and then spend time with yourself to understand, what do I want in my next relationship, and not attach an expectation to it, but just a desire, and then manifest that into your life. And it takes time, and don't try to speed through anything.
Yes. I know when I've gone through my stuff, someone said to me once, suffering is a choice. And my other side, another part of me said, happiness is the choice. And while there's grief, like you said, to ending something or loss, a loss could be loss of a friendship, loss of a relationship, a death of, is a loss. And I've always, glass half full, with loss comes opportunity. And I have to, again, thank you for a lot of the great knowledge you've given in the years that I've known you. And because of that, I'm writing a book called The 5 Hats. And I truly believe there are 5 hats, 5 areas of life that make a meaningful and happy relationship. And the first hat is family. We're all born into a family. The second is friendship. The third is business, career. The fourth is intimacy, connection. And then the 5th hat is adventure. And I find in the many interviews that I've been privileged to do is sometimes people fill up more areas than another. And I know that I've been guilty of that. Maybe there was years where I was working too much. So my business hat was way to the top, and then other hats suffer. And for me, I'm so happy to be in a great loving relationship today that takes work. It always takes work, doesn't it? And you don't just stop working on it.
No. You said, success and happiness is a choice. So is love. Staying in love and loving your partner through thick and thin. And I'm thinking about all those vows I'm going to be taking in a couple of months.
Yes, and Alexis is engaged, and she's going to be married in January. Congrats. So what do you tell yourself when you're like, okay, well, obviously you want to be married for life and you want to have a happy, loving relationship. So what are things that you tell yourself to do, or what are things that you and your partner keep working at, knowing that it's going to be work until the day you die?
Well, I am very fortunate that I have a partner that is very much into self-help and to being the best version of himself at all times. We're constantly striving for that. And I think that is something that we really fell in love with each other on, is that we both have that drive to really show up every day as the best version that we can be. I think I'm also really lucky in that he and we have different communication styles, but we're not afraid to communicate with each other. And I think what that means is that we have trust that the other person is never intentionally trying to hurt us. And that is important to keep in mind. So every
Yes.
morning, every interaction that we have, if it feels negative to me, I'm trying to remind myself in the back of my head, like we were talking about, I don't know what my partner has experienced up until now. He could have had a horrible morning. Maybe he's taking it out on me, but how can I have compassion for this moment, for this human being that was once a baby? Sometimes that's a trick that I do when I'm in a really heated moment,
Yeah.
trying to figure out like what color our linen's going to be for our wedding. But when we're in a heated moment and not seeing eye to eye, I truly try to envision him as this very precious, very vulnerable, innocent child. And it really does help sort of take the tension out of the room, not to infantilize him, not to put him down, but just to go, wow, at some point you were so fragile and precious too, just like me. And you still are.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's good, and it's a way to see our partner and have desire. Do you know Esther Perel? I just started following her on Instagram. Simon Sinek had posted about her, and then I didn't know who she was. And so she has these amazing talks, a TED Talk about desire and how we sometimes, again, in the beginning of a relationship, we look at our partner and we desire them. We don't know if we're going to be in a long-term relationship with them. We get excited. They're going to text us and call us and meet us. And it goes both ways. And then once you get comfortable, that's when sometimes the spiraling down of a relationship can occur because you don't have, I love how she talks about desire. What do you feel about some of her work?
Oh, I think she's absolutely amazing. And I love her French accent. It's also very easy to listen to. Yeah, she has an amazing podcast too. And I can't remember the title of it off the top of my head, but she actually lets you sit in on couples therapy. So you can hear her sort of break down how she's hearing these couples communicate. And yes, and her thoughts on desire and a way to keep a relationship connected and in touch with each other, I think is beautiful. I highly recommend everybody listen to her work or read her books.
Yes, Esther Perel, Esther, Perel, Perrell. I hope I got it right. I would love to be her one day, and I'm sure many people would.
Yeah.
So I find it interesting about that because again, I love the relationship I'm in, and so blessed to all the hats that I talk about and to work on them, knowing that they're work in process to the point where even my children talk about, okay, you're doing too much in that hat. You're supposed to come back to family hat, like practice what you preach.
Yeah.
So did your husband to be, your fiance, what's his name?
Josh.
So did he come with when you met him, did he already have a lot of personal development that he had worked on himself? And do you all expand upon that because you probably studied different things before you met?
Yes, he did. He was actually borderline sort of trying to decide if he was going to study to become a life coach, and really specializing in working with men and dating skills and getting their confidence back and all those types of things. So when we first met, he was kind of in that process, and he ended up taking a different route, but nevertheless, that information doesn't go anywhere, right? You can still use it with each other. And
it's really good.
He has that curiosity today, and he's just a natural communicator. So he's constantly talking to people and trying to make their life better too, and give his knowledge out.
So tell us what you feel about the law of attraction.
Yes. Okay. So I do believe that the energy that you put out there, you're going to get back, and it's kind of the karmic experience. I think that if you think positively about things in your life, that it's probably much more likely that those things are going to come find you. And I think kind of even on a smaller level, it's what you talk about when you talk about yourself to yourself. So how are you, when you're thinking of yourself, what type of language are you using when you're talking about yourself kind of in the third person? Like I wake up in the morning, like, how do I think about Alexis today? Right. Mm-hmm. And that energy that I'm thinking about myself and when I'm manifesting about myself is going to affect how I show up that day. And same thing, if I send negative thoughts your way, I think you will eventually feel that. And I think that eventually ends up making a chasm between people. And it's always better to put out the happy, positive, successful, yes, I can do this vibes. There's nothing wrong with that. But I do see where it can be painful for people to put out the bad stuff. I think it does affect you.
So who are some people that inspire you? Who are people you follow?
Gosh, can I say my mom?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
follow her on Instagram. I follow her in life.
Aw.
Actually, you mentioned Esther Perel already, but one of my favorite people that I've ever read and watched her TED Talks as well is Brene Brown.
Oh,
Brene
yes.
Brown is stunning and does so much work on vulnerability and being able to be present and show up for people. I think more than anything, though, something that I took away from her that I love, that I try to also integrate into my practice, is something called the anatomy of trust, where you can break down what trust is on a scientific level. And when you say you trust your partner, but there's a question mark there, and you're going, I trust that he's going to show up on time, but I don't trust that he's not going to break my heart. There's something there, right? So being able to break down trust in that way, I think, is incredibly important. There's also another author out there. Her name is Amy Alkon, Alkon. And she has a book out there that has a bad word in the title. So I don't know if I'm allowed to say it.
Oh, you can say it.
Her book is Unfuckology, is what it's called. And I love that book because first of all, it's playful. But secondly, she really does give you some step-by-step processes and some exercises to do to get you out of your meek, sort of self-defeating self, and a way to branch out and to put on a role that's going to be confident.
Well, thanks, Alexis. Last question. I could keep talking to you for hours. You're just amazing. So final question is, what is a challenge you've had in life? And how have you overcome it?
I think probably the challenge that I faced my whole life and that I will continue to face is, for a while, I was very convinced that I had to find my worth in how other people saw me. Mm-hmm. And as I'm maturing and coming into the later part of my 30s, I think I'm finally coming into my own and realizing that my worth lies no farther than right here. It's all with me. Doesn't matter what other people think about me at all. I think, unfortunately, social media is making us all very cognitive of what other people think about us, and where I can understand that can really be good and can promote. In the long run, it doesn't matter. It's what I think about myself at the end. And so I will constantly battle with self-worth and am I good enough and who likes me? But at the end, I'm the only person. I'm the only one that needs to like me. And so I'm reminding myself of that every day.
Well, thank you, Alexis. So for more information, you can go to alexismaron.com. I'm saying it right. Like Maron. Karen, you said. Maron.com. Yes, ALEXISMARON.com. She's in Orange County, California, but I'm sure you work with people on all kinds of levels.
Mm-hmm, I do. Yes. I can do Skype sessions and phone sessions as well.
I'm telling you, Alexis is one of the most amazing people I'm so privileged to know, and I can't wait to talk to you more, Alexis. So thanks for everyone for watching Happy Lifestyle Online. And this show will be broadcast again on YouTube and throughout. So please share and share with your friends. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out for us. Thanks, Alexis.
Thanks, Lisa.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.